reasons that you fail is human nature. When you reach out, you just automatically rotate your wrist to open your hand. Just like a beginning bowler. You know why they always throw gutter balls off to the right? Because when they come out, they go like that. They put a spin on the gutter, on the bowling ball, and it rolls right off in the gutter. They don't have gutters on the pond, but if you come out and twist your wrist, you're going to have a hot mess. When you cast conventional gear, you use your wrist. If you do that with a fly rod, the rod tip moves in an arch and the fly line follows along with it. And it ends up in a puddled up mess right there, or you stick yourself in the neck with a hook. The third reason you fail, you're not making a sudden stop when you come back on your back cast. If you just kind of come back gentle, then your line just kind of flutters behind you. You have a whole bunch of slack there, so you try to come forward and load the rod for a forward cast. You have to pull all that slack out before you ever start to load the rod. So you come back, sudden stop, wait for the line to straighten out behind you, straight forward like you're throwing a punch, push down with your thumb. So you're making the sudden stop on the forward cast because your wrist only goes so far, so when you push down with your thumb, that's it. That's all the farther it can go. Now here's a bonus fail. If you're not careful, when you come back, you'll want to break your wrist. And that's how you get a fly stuck in the back of your neck or throw a tailing loop. Because your line drops down behind you. And the line always follows the tip of the rod. So when you come forward, that fly is coming right past, will stick you in the neck, or you're going to throw a tailing loop and tie a wind knot in your rod, in your line. You'll sometimes see an experienced fly caster drift. They come back, make their sudden stop, and then as their line is unfurling and unrolling behind them, they'll let the rod drift back just a little bit, and that gives them a longer casting stroke. But they are absolutely coming to a sudden stop first. It's just so smooth, you don't realize it. They come to a sudden stop, they let their wrist bend a little bit, they let the rod tip drift back. And then they come straight forth, push with their thumb. If you get it right, then the line is straight. Straight back, straight forward, push with your thumb. Let the rod tip follow the line down to the water. Tie a piece of yarn on the end of your line when you're practicing. Don't practice with a sharp hook. You pinch the line between your fourth finger and the handle, and then you retrieve it. That's called stripping. And your forefinger is your drag. Don't try to fight a freshwater fish with the reel. I mean, take a look at that handle. There's no way that was designed for fighting a fish. It's merely to spool your line back up when you're not fishing. The rig that we're going to use to catch your first fish is called a popper and a dropper. You have a bass popper up here, 1 or 2 feet, a 6-pound monofilament line, and then a black woolly booger. Fish on. Nice little bluegill. Catch and release. Your first fly rod should be a 5-weight. Decent quality, but don't spend a lot of money on it on your first fly rod. I have a link in the description to a Reddington on Amazon that's a real good quality at a reasonable price. Now you end up with this line at your feet, or if you're wading, laying on the water. So to To get the line back out there, you do what you call false casting. And it's the same basic casting stroke, and all you're doing is letting a little line out on the back and a little line out on the front until you get enough to where you can make your cast. Don't worry if your casts aren't pretty. You'll get there. Concentrate on this casting stroke. That's the fundamentals. That's the most important thing. Is straight back like this rod. This reel has to travel in a straight line. Now it doesn't matter if it's straight up and straight down, straight this way, straight that way, straight this way, straight that way. Doesn't matter. It has to move in a straight line. Because wherever this goes, your rod tip goes, and then the fly line follows it. But this is the absolute most important thing, the casting stroke. The second most important thing is the back cast. If you have a good casting stroke and a halfway decent back cast, your forward cast takes care of itself. You can ask Sir Isaac Newton. He can explain it better than me.
You grip the fly rod loosely in your hand and put your thumb on top. Now your fly rod is your friend. It's not an enemy to be conquered or a whip to be snapped. You and your friend are going to go have a relaxing day on the water. Now if you and a friend went out walking and you walked faster than him, you would slow down so that you could walk together. Casting a fly rod is a slower process than casting a conventional reel, so you have to slow down and wait on it so you can fish together. Now, see, your fly line eventually is going to get twists in it. If your fly line gets twists in it and you're a right-hand caster, you spin it like this. If you're a left-hand caster, you go the other direction. And then you grasp this right here, you pinch that in, and slowly but surely, you take the twists out. Once you get the basic casting stroke down, you're going to want to increase your distance. The easiest way to do that is with a double haul, which is where while you're casting, you actually pull on the line a little bit to add more bend to the rod and make the line go faster and catapult out farther. You're basically adding tension to the spring so it snaps back harder.
Your fly rod is a spring, and you're using the tension of that spring to catapult your line out across the water. And that's why the casting stroke is so important. That's how you load the energy in the rod and maintain the bend, or they call the load, so you get the maximum use of your force. On your back cast, if you come too soon, it's like cracking a whip and you can throw your fly off the end of your rod. You can snap the fly off the end of your leader. But also, if it's not fully extended, when you come forward, you got to pull that slack on around, and you haven't loaded near as much energy in your rod. But if that line is perfectly straight behind you when you come forward, then you're pulling against the weight of that line. You're bending your rod, loading it up, and when you come to the stop at the end, plunk, out across the water it goes.
It's time to talk about leaders, tippets, and flies. A commercial leader perfectly tapers down to 6 or 4 or 2 pound test. And the taper is really important because that gradually transfers the energy and keeps your loop constant so your fly presents correctly. And when you first start fly fishing, you should use a commercial leader. But then after that, you can start tying your own. I always tie my own. This one is 30-pound fluorocarbon down to 20-pound fluorocarbon tied with a double uni knot. And this one drops down to 10-pound monofilament just because that's what I had. And then it ends up with 6-pound monofilament, and the connections are double uni knots. Your tippet is the very end of the fly leader. And as you tie flies on and cut them off and change flies, you come back up that taper, and when you get up around the 10-pound test section of the taper, then you tie on another piece of tippet, and that way you can keep using your leader. But here's a close-up of the rig that we use. It's a bass popper, and then there's monofilament tied to the bottom of the hook right above the barb, and that comes down to a black woolly booger. Now check with your local fishing regulations and make sure you can have 2 hooks on the same line. Some places you can't. If you can't, start with the black woolly booger, and then if that doesn't work and you see the fish hitting the top of the water, then switch to the bass popper. A black woolly booger is the most versatile of all the flies. If you only had to pick one fly to fish the rest of your life, you'd pick a black woolly booger. Now, the black woolly booger should be tied on with a non-slip mono loop. I've tied this line onto the hook with an improved clinch knot, and then the bass popper should be tied on with a non-slip mono loop.
Knot for your lures. The loop knot is your secret weapon for incredible lure action in the water. Step 1. Make an overhand loop, then pass the tag end behind the standing line. Step 2. Pass the tag end of your line through the eye of the lure. Step 3. Wrap the tag end around the standing line, going through the loop you just created. Step 4. Repeat the wrap process for 3 to 4 turns. Step 5. Carefully thread the tag end through the loop near the eye of the lure. Step 6. Moisten the knot and gently pull the tag end to tighten the loop snugly against the eye. Enhance your lure's movement and increase your chances of a great catch.